start recording. I'll mute you. I'll talk a little bit about it, and then we'll get to you. And
Sure.
Okay. Awesome. Well, hello everyone. If you're watching the replay, it's Jennifer and I right now. Happy Thanksgiving week. We are in week 3 of Overlooked to Fully Booked. I feel like so many of you have progressed so much, and I'm so proud of the work that you're putting in. I know a lot of the things that you're doing are super uncomfortable and super new, but I promise you that this will become second nature, like brushing your teeth. Like eventually content is just going to be this thing that you're like, oh yeah, that's what I do on Sundays. You don't even think about it. But right now we're just like moving through the dirt until all those seeds that we're planting grow. And today we're going to talk about programs, pricing, how to structure them, what a program really is, how you can reach your income goals with that, and all that good stuff. For those of you who have been trying to log into Overlooked to Fully Booked, the course, I am so sorry that you have not been able to. My website is completely new. They're like transferring the new website, so all my links are broken. My website designer is on it. I promise you, you will have access to the course really, really soon. Okay, so let's dive right in. Let's talk about your offer. I feel like a lot of people get stuck here because there's so much like speculation as to like how it should be. Like you need to do this, it needs to be like this, you need to price it this way, you need to charge your worth, it needs to be 6 months, it needs to be 1 month, it needs to be one-on-one, it needs to be a course. And you're like, oh my God, like what is the thing? And today we're going to simplify that because it's all about simplification. And I just want you to look at your offer, not as like this thing that you have to get perfect, but rather like the vehicle of how you take your clients through transformation. So your program, your irresistible offer, does not have to be like this perfect thing that has the perfect amount of sessions and has the perfect length and it has the perfect bonuses. It's more of like, okay, what do I need to put in this vehicle? Like when I open up the trunk, what do I need to put in here so that we can get from point A to point B? And every client is going to be different. Here's where I don't want you to put pressure on yourself, where you think that going from point A to point B means like your client needs to be 100% transformed by the end of this program, because that's just not the case. You know, sometimes transformation is going to look different, but we pack that vehicle with everything that's necessary. So is your client brand new? Do they need a lot of digging to do? It's a deep stuff that you're covering. In that case, maybe we want to pack longer sessions versus shorter sessions. You also want to think about, what about my lifestyle, right? Like, can I even do long sessions? What if you can't? What if you have, like, you're doing the type of work with your clients that's really deep, and they probably will need longer sessions, at least at the beginning, but your lifestyle doesn't permit it. So how can we pack that vehicle so it fits both of you, right? So like that road trip, it's not uncomfortable for them or for you. So maybe you offer 2 small sessions a week, or bi-weekly sessions instead of monthly sessions, like whatever. There's so many ways to do it. You just also want to make sure that it's comfortable for you, because you don't want to go on a 12-hour road trip from Florida to, I don't know, New York, and be uncomfortable in the back seat the entire time and wish you would not have gotten in that car. So that is the best analogy that I can give you about your program. Is the trip going to be perfect? No. You're going to have to get gas when you don't want to. You're going to have to go to the bathroom when you don't want to. You're going to maybe have to stop and get, I don't know, windshield wiper, or add something to the trunk of your car while you're on the way there. So it's not like you have to make this the perfect thing, but you want to equip it as much as possible. So this offer is going to be composed of 2 things, okay? And there's going to be the features, and then there's going to be the benefits. So the features is the logistics of it. So how much gas do we need to put in the car? Which gas stations are we going to stop in? How long are we going to drive until we stop, what hotels are we going to stay in? So if we relate that to our coaching aspect, like how many sessions are we going to have? What type of modules are we going to cover? What type of bonuses will be super beneficial? What systems and features can we add to the program? And here's what I have to say about that. The first time that you take that road trip, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to look back and be like, oh my God, I wish I would have done this, and that. So don't try to get it perfect. You kind of just have to get in the car and test and adjust so that the next time that you take that road trip, you're even better and better and better until it evolves into like the closest to perfect road trip that you can take with your client. So that's the feature side of things. Then we have the benefits. And here is a secret. People buy benefits, they don't buy features. So, and they also buy connection. That's like the most important part. Hi, Kathleen, welcome. Welcome. I'm talking a little bit about programs and offers and pricing and all that good stuff. And then I'm gonna go and coach you each individually, okay? And then you missed a little bit, so you can come back to the call and listen to everything else. So people buy benefits, they don't buy features. That's something I always want you to remember. It's super, super, super uncomfortable at first to talk about the benefits versus the features, because we want to be like, and if you sign up with me, you get 5 sessions and you get this bonus and you get unlimited access to me and you get copy reviews and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, but like, what do I actually get? Right? Like, why am I buying this? What is the purpose of all these sessions, of all these bonuses, of all these features? So that's where we have to go in and think about like, what road trip are we taking? Okay. And in your business, you can take your clients in so many road trips, right? Like you can go to New York, you can go to Florida, you can go to California, you can go so many places. You don't have to try to make one program go to all the places. It's totally unnecessary. Actually, it's impossible. If we keep our car and road trip analogy, you literally cannot take a road trip everywhere at the same time. What you can do is grab your car, go here, then go here, then go here, then go here, then go here, right? And it's the same idea with your offers, right? Like you don't have to pack everything into a $17 PDF. You don't have to pack everything into a 6-month coaching relationship. You don't have to pack everything into a 6-week course, right? Like what you want to do is you want to pack it in a way that it takes the client from here to here, so they experience excitement and result in connection with you, and they want to go farther to the next state, right? And they want to keep going in this road trip because, you know, even though it's not perfect and it's uncomfortable, they're excited to know how can they keep working with you? What other offer can they buy from you? And that's the whole idea of it, okay? Okay, here's another point that I have to give in regards to programs and offers. No one is going to buy just because you have a quote unquote pretty sales page or the perfect copy or whatever. Most people buy because they feel a connection to you, because they feel that you are the person to help them. That's not to put pressure on yourself. I don't want you to be like, oh my God, so I need to be perfect and I need to connect with everyone. And no, it's just, I think a lot of times we put so much emphasis on things that don't matter as much as we think they do because they're just a part of the puzzle versus the entire puzzle, right? Like your sales page for your program is not the entire puzzle. Your whatever, if you're doing funnels, your funnel is not the entire process. Your Facebook group is not the entire process. Everything needs to come together so that people want to buy that offer. That is what matters. What matters is that you kind of like develop over time a system that most of the time it works to replicate over and over and over again, in which you take your cold leads. I hate the term leads, but in which you take your cold leads and warm them up, right? Like they get to know you. They know your personality. They know who you are. They know what you do. They know that you're the person for them. You take them into this journey and this road trip, And that's why people buy. Like, I have never had someone say, you know what, I'm going to sign up with you because you have so many bonuses. They're like, no, I connect with you, I vibe with you, I know you're the person, this feels really good, I'm going to sign up. That's why people buy. So focus a lot on making people feel good, making your potential clients feel good. And this starts from the moment they see a post, to the moment they watch you in a live stream, to the moment that they join your group, to the moment that they see your sales page. Make them feel good and excited and connected and related. That's going to help you convert and sell out those programs so much more than spending 5 months on a pretty sales page. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about pricing now. Okay. If you have any other questions about programs, or if you want to go deeper into your specific program, we're definitely going to do that, especially we're a small group today. But I want to talk about pricing a little bit, because there's no such thing as a program without a price. I am a little unconventional here, and I teach this very different to what most people teach. I really don't go with the philosophy of quote unquote charge your worth. And here's why. I'm really into mental health and peace of mind. And I think if you relate your worth to how much money you're making or how much you're charging, your state of being is going to fluctuate so much, right? So like if 1 month you sell a package at the price point that you want it, you're going to feel on top of the world because you're worth it. And then if the next month you don't, then you're going to feel down. And that's just, your confidence is just going to be a roller coaster if we're tying those two together. What I think about pricing is it has to feel good to you. There are no rules. I don't care what anyone is saying. There are no rules. This is your business. This is your program. These are your clients. This is the way you're running the show. You just need to feel very comfortable with it. At first, okay? Eventually, when you build that, like, you know what, I get clients all the time. I never have to worry about it because I just know, even though I don't know how they're going to come, they always come. When you get into that mindset where you've made money and you're like, I got this, then you start taking into account, okay, how much do I want to make a month? How many packages or programs do I have to sell? And we get a little bit more logical with it. But at the beginning, if you've never gotten paid, I just want you to feel super good. Because people can feel that, right? Like, and if you're confident in your pricing and you're like, this is how much it is, they can feel that you are confident in your program, and therefore they're going to be confident in you as the person to help them create that transformation. Okay, so I have an exercise that I do with pricing. Hold on, before I give you that exercise, I'm going to say that last. But here's the other thing about pricing. If you're going too big, and there's no such thing as too big, right? Like, we can all charge whatever we want based on how we feel about it. But if you go too big at the wrong stage, what happens is, like, I want you to like take a step back and ask yourself, like, do I feel comfortable if I was to purchase something at this level? If you don't, and it's not like you have to purchase coaching. Let's say you're doing coaching. It's not like you have to be like, do I feel comfortable hiring a coach at this level? Because maybe it's not what you value at the moment. But like, for example, when I first started coaching, I was not investing at a high-end level in coaching. I started charging a little bit more as I progressed. But even though I was not charging what I was investing in a one-on-one coach, I was charging what I've invested in personal trainers, for example. So I did feel comfortable investing at a level where if I knew that something would help me, I didn't mind charging $600, paying $600 a month for a personal trainer like that came to my house, you know? So don't get into the idea that like you have to hire the coach for you to feel comfortable with that price, because you don't. Just ask yourself, like, is this a point that I feel good at, right? Like, and the reason why I say that, it's because it's so hard to handle an objection that we have ourselves, right? Like, if we have that objection within us, our own stuff is going to project onto our posts, onto our sales calls, onto everything, right? Like, if we're afraid of that number, and we are charging that number, our own stuff is going to come up. Period. End of story. It's even if we're not even talking about money, let's say you quote unquote have an unsupported partner, right? And someone comes to you and they're like, you know what, I don't know if I can do this because I have an unsupported partner, and you're struggling with that yourself, it's going to be nearly impossible for you to handle that objection, right? So this is the type of work that we have to do on our own before we can expand on it on the outside. Here's an exercise I have for pricing. Take a little bit of time, and after you're done with your program and after you're like, okay, I'm ready to go, how much do I charge for this? Take a little bit of time, think about the first number that comes to your mind, 27, 97, 1,000, whatever comes to your mind. And then stand in front of the mirror and pretend that you're talking to an ideal client, and pretend that you've had your sales conversation, you've done everything you have to do, and it's like that time where you're like, awesome. So, if we were to work together in this program, the investment would be X. And I want you to keep going up, right? Like, if we were to work together in this program, the investment would be 547. Every time you say the number, tune in with yourself and see how you feel. Does it feel comfortable? If it does, go up. Do it again. If it feels comfortable, go up. And then when you get to a level where it's like, it feels a little uncomfortable, but not that uncomfortable that I'm going to run away whenever it's time for me to say it, stop, write down that number, and let it simmer, right? Sleep on it, think about it, just kind of like let it simmer and see if that is the number. I think that's one of my favorite exercises because it really allows you to feel what it's going to be like when you're actually selling your offer. And remember, if you feel good, it's going to be so much easier for you to sell. The other thing I want to say is don't have I'm going to pull up my calculator, don't have the mentality that you can only make your income level, you can reach your income goals through one program. Let's say you want to get to $1,000. Let's just start there. You can sell a $1,000 coaching package. You can sell 2 $500 coaching packages. You can sell 4 spots to a course that's $250. There's just so many ways. You can literally sell an ebook for $10, 10 times. 100 times. There's so many ways to get to that income level. So don't restrict yourself thinking this program needs to be it, because there's just going to be so much more to the equation. There was one more thing I wanted to say before I hone in on each of you. It's going to come back to me. I promise. It always does. But yeah, that's honestly the overall gist of the program and the pricing part of it. Last thing I want to say, you want to create a program that people want, not that you want. So just always keep in mind your people, keep in mind what they want, keep in mind what they say. Because at the end of the day, we are in business to solve problems and help them create solutions. And it's so hard. I'm just going to be completely transparent here. It's so hard to take ourselves out of our business and put them in instead, just because we're so closely related to it. But really try to just I'm going to take myself out of this and I'm going to hear about what others have to say. For those of you who have been doing market research, this is your time to bring that up and package it together, and add words and sentences that you've been hearing or learning about and all that good stuff. So I'm going to stop here, and I am going to just go to Jennifer and see how you're feeling. Do you have any questions? What's coming up for you?
So I would say I'm certainly feeling some resistance around some of my content. So I sat down, I had done some voice recordings of just really high level ideas, and I sat down to write them out, and I got some done. And then I did a post on Instagram, felt super great about it, and then it's I stopped, and even though I've got stuff that I've created, I feel like it's a little disjointed. I feel like I had this like massive brain dump of like, oh, this would make a great post. This would make a great post. But then it's like, okay, now I've got to think about what's my goal, right? And as soon as I put that constraint on, it's like all of a sudden I freeze and I'm like, oh, this doesn't fit. This wouldn't be good. I'm pretty sure it's fear. I need to find a way to move through it.
What's the fear?
I mean, I think that's a good question. So I think probably a couple things. One, it's like, is it good enough? Right? That's my inner perfectionist. Two, I think I've really struggled with like trying to do like a cookie cutter type style to it. And I had a whole bunch, so I do use Trello. I had a whole bunch of stuff in there. I read through it and I was like, oh my goodness, like gross. This is so awful. So I feel like I've kind of done the work to say, okay, it's okay to show up and talk how I normally would. But then there's now this fear of like, is it too much? Like, will people like me? And it's so crazy because I thought I had worked through that. But it's coming back up again.
I think there's this false idea of unshakable confidence where it's like, once you work through something, you are unshakable forever and ever. And that gives us the wrong perspective of what it really is like, which is, this is your thing. You may have to work through it over and over again, but it just gets easier, right? Like the gaps between that get bigger. Mm-hmm. And then whenever it comes up, you have more tools and experience to move through it faster.
Yeah.
So what if I told you, like, how does it feel when I say, no matter what you do, people won't like you?
True.
How, like, what comes up for you? Does it feel like?
I mean, I know that that's true. And I think it's like, it's okay until it happens, and so I will say, like, this was quite a number of months ago. I had posted something in a group and got absolutely attacked on it. And I think that's where a lot of this is coming from. It's like, even though I was like, whatever, that's their issue, it still was like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, some of it was really personal. And so then I'm like, how do you not let that bother you? Even though you see, like, clearly I've triggered you, clearly you're the one with the issue here. But I think that's always kind of in the back of my head. Like, what if that happens again? Like, and I know I'll just have to work through it. So I think this is where I'm struggling. It's like, consciously, I know that I'm going to be able to work through it. Consciously, I know that that happens. I know that I'm not for everyone, but then it's like subconsciously, I just really want people to like me.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Tell me, do you ever talk about that attack, or is that something that just happened? You kept it into yourself and it's just like in the back of your mind sometimes?
So I definitely talked about it, with my husband, with a couple of my like friends who saw what was going on. We definitely talked about it. I feel like it's just still hanging out there. So somehow I've got to like release it and say, whatever, like, bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really know how.
What's still lingering? Is it like what it made you feel? Is it one specific comment? Is it like you doubting what you said?
So I think what it is like this whole notion of like, I've got to be this expert, right? And so then it's like, but then so I said what was a truth that I believe, and then I got totally attacked. So then am I not seen as an expert? And it's so crazy because I know it's not true. But that's what's coming up.
I have some homework for you.
Okay.
You obviously probably follow other people online, right? Yeah. Or they're like your people who you look up to and admire and whatever. Some of them have books, right? Mm-hmm. So I want you to go on Amazon and look up their books. And I want you to go to the 1-star reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to tell me if those experts don't experience that.
Yeah.
So this is just like the beginning of it, right? Like just coming to terms with the fact that no matter who you are, no matter what stage you're in, no matter how much you know, no matter how much money you make, no matter anything, like all experts will feel like they're not experts at times, and people will make and like will put the effort to make them feel like their work sucks. Because, and here's the thing about that, and oh my God, there's a great YouTube video about this. I'm going to try to find it and post it in the group. But here's the thing about haters. They are probably not out there in the field playing the game. So do you feel comfortable like telling me a little bit what the post was about and kind of like what the response was about, or do you just not want to even go there?
Oh yeah, no, I can talk about it. So this was kind of back when I was helping people to find virtual assistants. And so I made a post, and it was about like how you don't like price and how much you pay per hour is not indicative of the quality of work that you can get, and that there are virtual assistants for absolutely anyone in any budget. And true. Right. And so it was, and then I went on to talk a little bit about like outsourcing overseas. Well, oh my goodness, like as if that didn't like call all of the virtual assistants in the US to completely attack me about how I abuse people and all of these things, right? So it was really around this whole idea that I'm this horrible person because I exploit people in third world countries, and how dare I pay somebody less than what an American minimum wage was, right? And how like, I should be so ashamed of myself, all of those sorts of things, right? So, where I'm at and what I would talk about now obviously isn't necessarily the same. I mean, I still advocate it. There's still a great option, and I don't think that, you need to be making 6 figures and to be able to hire somebody and to start outsourcing. But I think because it was like, here I am, I'm trying to reach like these people who feel like they have to pay somebody $40 an hour, and they're sitting there stuck and struggling and overwhelmed, that there's options out there, right?
And then you get attacked by the people who are, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like total scarcity mindset.
Insecure about their ability to succeed in the United States with higher prices.
Yeah.
I have a great story about this. I usually don't say personal stories because I want to keep it on you, but I really think this is going to like hit for you. So years ago, I was hiring overseas. I still have a VA from overseas, and it's actually something I had to work through with my coaches because my dad's an entrepreneur and he has his own business, and he's like, how dare you? Like, and he would say it like half jokingly, but at the same time, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I mean, I'm trying to grow a business here. Like, there's no way for me to invest in the type of level of support that I want unless I grow my business, right? And I need expansion right now. So I had this inner battle with that. And even my boyfriend was like, how are you not hiring American employees and providing American jobs and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God. I took that to a coaching session, and my coach was like, what does your VA from the Philippines does not deserve a good life? Does she deserve it less than an American employee? Do big corporations don't import and export from all over the world? Aren't like most of her things made in China? So that really started shifting my perspective, and I even looked up like what's the yearly salary for someone in that country, and from what I was paying this person, I was literally paying like 1/8 of her yearly salary from working for me like 2 hours a week. So there will always be different perspectives, and sometimes even from the people you love the most, right? Like everyone will always have an opinion. Doesn't mean that they're wrong. Doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that there are different perspectives, right? Like the people who bashed you on that post, it's not that they're wrong, right? Like, they are totally entitled to their opinion. They are VAs from America who charge a lot of money. So it's okay for them to feel like that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
That does not mean that your perspective and what you truly believe is wrong. It just means that you're looking at it from a different angle.
Right. Yeah.
And if that does happen again, which, to be honest with you, if it happens again, you think it's going to be this big thing, but you're going to be like, oh, it's this thing again. I guess I'm going to have to move through it. But if it does happen again and you're scared of that happening again, just look at it like that, right? Like, it's just going to be people with different perspectives, different wounds, different insecurities, who are just telling me their opinion in a really unconstructive way. And to be honest with you, I have a rule in my business. If you're not out there playing the game, I don't want to hear it. And if you don't give me constructive criticism, it's just not going to resonate with me, because you obviously don't have the emotional intelligence to have a good debate with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So can you incorporate those rules into your business?
Yeah, I think so.
How does that feel?
Yeah, I think it's good. It's like empowering, right? So, yeah.
Are there fears still lingering though?
So I think, maybe another piece of the resistance is coming from, like, I put a lot of pressure that it's all got to kind of be cohesive and all of that. And I think, even as I'm saying that, it's like kind of ridiculous, because I need to just like put something out there, and I can improve on it. It doesn't mean that the post is crap. It means that, like, the more that I do it, the more comfortable I get, the more, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll change this, tweak this or whatever, and then I can repost it. So I think I may have just kind of like worked through some of that, and it's like, stop analyzing. Not everyone sees every single post.
No one. Like, there's not one person that will see all of your posts.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about that cohesiveness. Like, where do you want it to intertwine to?
Okay, so ultimately, I think I really have like two goals. So one, obviously, I want people to book a call with me because I want to get one-on-one clients. And then the other one is I do also want to promote that scholarship that I'm going to do, because I do think that part of my underlying stuff is like, I feel like I just need to do it with somebody to get some confidence and go from there, right? And so really, like, I watched your video. It was super helpful of like you and your content strategy, and just like going into everything with like a goal in mind, like what do they need to hear in order to actually do the call to action, click on the link or whatever, message you, whatever. And so I feel like maybe I'm not so confident that the content that I've got is going to actually lead to do that.
To the call or to the scholarship?
Like both. Like some of the pieces I feel like they would, right? And I know that not every single piece is going to actually lead to like book a call, right? So some of it will be like to just create a bit of conversation and awareness around that. And I really want to stick for right now. I really want to stick to like that whole letting go of control piece, knowing that like it can evolve over time, but like right now focus on that.
Yeah, that's your pillar.
Yeah. And so I feel like I do have a tendency to go like really literal. And so it's like, I think I need to be a little bit more subjective, because that whole thing, there's a lot that you can talk about that isn't necessarily like, how do you let go of control, right? Like, how do you, like, do you know what I mean? Like, here's a story of letting go of control, where a lot of times, like what I realized is it's not that people realize that that's their problem. So maybe I need, okay, so as I'm talking about this, I'm like, okay, maybe I need to talk about like what people's problems are. It doesn't even necessarily have to mention like letting go of control. in the post. But it's like, here's your problem, what you think your problem is. Here's maybe what's really actually going on, and here's what you want to happen type thing. And then the how to get there would be to like book a call with me and let's see if we're a fit to work together.
Exactly. So 3 things I want to say here.
Okay.
Fear loses its power when you're taking action. So the reason why you're feeling so much resistance and fear is because you're not like, you know what, like, get out of here. I see you, I hear you, get out of here, get out of my way. I'm about to post this on Instagram. It may not be perfect, it may not be cohesive. You know what, I may not even get a call this week, but guess what? People are seeing my work and they're connecting with me, going back to that connection piece. So that eventually when they do see that post, it's going to work way more than if I don't post for like another week. Yeah. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, what if you could do both, right? Like, what if you could have your control pillar, let go of control, and simultaneously talk about, you know, their actual problems and their actual desires, you know, and then eventually every couple of posts tie them into control. Because, you know, what you're doing right now is you're educating your audience. You're making them feel like you understand them and you get them, and you're also educating them as to, this is the problem, right? Like, a lot of people don't know, it's even with the same thing that I do. A lot of people don't know that strategy, action, and confidence is the problem, right? Like, it's not the funnel, it's not the numbers, it's literally strategy, action, and confidence. So, with that said, your job is to just say it all. It doesn't, I mean, unless you're like launching and we like sit down and we're like, all right, Jennifer, let's plan out your launch. Let's open up the spreadsheet. What's going to happen in week 1? What are the points that we're going to hit? How are we going to create like this awesome thing? And even then, it's not going to be perfect. Your job is to just create content that you're excited to share, because sometimes all it takes is one post. Like, you have this idea that they need to go through like this journey through your content, which they do, but there's not that much pressure on it. You know, like, I'm talking about goal setting. That's it. Like, my thing right now is I'm talking about goal setting. Sometimes I talk about my goals. Sometimes I talk about what the benefits are. Sometimes I talk about how it's helped me or what my clients achieve based on that, or like my unique framework that I use. But it's like, you have the freedom to be flexible like that when it comes to content. There will be times where you don't have to, but I think right now it's not the stage where you need to put so much pressure around this.
Okay. Yeah.
So here's another piece of homework for you.
Okay.
When we talk about consistency with content, what would that look like for you?
Okay, so good question. Because I've been thinking about this. So at first I was like, okay, I need to be like showing up every single day. And I know that that's important, but I feel like it's kind of more like, what if I said every second day and worked up to every day?
Okay. Perfect. So like 3-4 times a week?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's my challenge to you. Do that. Even if one day you're like, oh shoot, I forgot to do my content, take a picture of you and your kids and be like working from home.
Yeah.
Or, you know, being a mom sometimes requires letting go of control. Like, whatever. Like, it's like what Marie said, right? Like 80-20 rule. Like, a lot of times you're going to be talking about your business and your goals and what you want to get to. And a lot of the time you're not, because people want to hire people. They don't want to hire a bot.
Yeah.
So if you do that this week, next week, well, I guess if you do that this week and next week, or just next week, report to me. Like, what's your, before we talked about this, what was, from a scale of 1 to 10, what was your fear at?
I'd say like a 7.
7. Okay, so next week after you do it, I want us to give your fear another test. Because I promise you it's going to go down. Even if it's like 6.9, you're going to be like, it's not that scary anymore, right? Like, what's the worst that could happen? I did it already.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, just a quick one around the program. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so because I think I was having a little bit of anxiety about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I kind of feel like part of that is when I think about one-on-one coaching, I really think that my thought is it's difficult to kind of put it into a box when it really depends on like that person and where they are and what their struggles are, right? And I think like in my head, I'd like to just kind of keep it open-ended and be like, you know, like I do 3 months one-on-one coaching and it's completely custom to where you are and what you need. Like, is that okay to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I still want you to lead with results.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say results, I mean potential results, because that's why people would hire you from. But I mean, if you look at my one-on-one coaching page, it's designed that way because it's such a unique journey, right? Like I have worked with clients who leave Wall Street and they want to start their business. So their stage and their business model is going to be so much different, right? Like they're going to do a lot of networking. It's just so different versus like my Beachbody client who is a stay-at-home mom and she just wants to get to like level 5 in her business. Like it's so different. So I can't tell you like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to set up this funnel and we're going to grow your group and we're going to do this, because some people don't ever even end up doing that. So if you can just talk about it all in the sense of like, here's where I'm going to get you, right? The journey, the car ride is going to be a little bit different for everyone. You know, we're going to be packed with tons of resources and tools and stuff, but the from here to here is going to be different to anyone. But what we're ultimately going to be working towards is the same thing. Does that make you feel better?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I'm going to talk to Catherine and then I'll come back at the end.
Okay. Just so you know, I am probably going to have to leave in about 15 minutes.
That's totally fine.
Okay, cool.
Happy Thanksgiving if I don't talk to you again.
Yeah, thanks, you too.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi.
How are you?
Pretty good. So I have a 2-year-old who's sort of bouncing around over here. So
that's okay.
We have somebody else who could look after him, but he doesn't. Namely, my husband's home, but he doesn't seem to want to hang out with him. So he's just hanging out with me. So just to warn you, if you hear background.
That's okay. We're ready for it.
Yeah.
What's been happening?
Well, I was just kind of checking in. I'm mostly just feeling like I haven't been doing as much as I would like the last few days. Mm-hmm. But I guess I feel like I have done, my minimum of a LinkedIn post. I haven't done it today yet, but I did it Monday and Tuesday. Okay. And I did my group post Monday and Tuesday, but I did the same thing on both because I kind of did a check-in with myself and I was like, well, they can be the same, that's okay. Mm-hmm. So that made life easier. So I did those. And then I've just been kind of trying to, and I got to a networking thing last week. I was going to try to do one this week because that was the suggestion from my other course that I'm doing, was to do in-person networking once a week, and if I missed a week, to do it twice in the next week for a month. I was going to try to squeeze it in this week. It just felt I would have had to do it instead of this call, actually. And I just felt like, okay, this is just too much to squeeze it in with, the holiday and everything. So I'm going to try to do it next week. But I did get to one last week. So that was a good sort of a stretch for me because going in person is kind of, a different thing. And trying to do the suggestion of how to express what I was doing. Yes, it's going to be hard for them to hear me if you chat in the background like that. So I guess I wanted to be on the call for sure, but I'm not quite sure what to share or ask about. I guess I'm kind of wanting to stay in a positive frame of mind with the little bit I got done, because it just seemed like every day this kind of seemed like last week and this week, a lot of the plans I had to have more time for me kind of fell through. So it was sort of like, well, I'll just do a little bit, and having done a little bit, make that be okay. So that's kind of what I've been doing. So.
Okay, so a few things. I think like the way to frame this is you're staying consistent, right? Like
That's
even
what I was
with
kind of trying to do. Like, at least I'm going to do the minimum consistently and just, have that be enough for now. And next week will hopefully be more,
Yeah, and it's like the rigid stick breaks. My boyfriend always told me that. Like, if you're a rigid stick, you're going to break. What you want to do is you want to bend and flex according to what's going on, right? Like,
Right.
well, that's exactly what you're doing. You have a busy week. There's a lot going on. It's the holidays. We're all like super overwhelmed. And instead of looking at it like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I should be doing more. I should be doing more. Have your non-negotiables, right? Like, what are the like 2 or 3 tasks that you're like, this are my non-negotiables. I do every single week. And when you do them, you feel fulfilled. Some weeks you're going to do a lot more than that. Some weeks you're not.
Yeah, that's why I figured the daily post, because that's not something I've always done, but that's sort of a minimum goal I'm wanting to do every day. So that's kind of why, I guess that was my single one was my minimum of posting on both of those, like my personal group on Facebook and then my LinkedIn. So
Perfect. The other thing I wanted to ask you is like, what's the intention? Like, what's your intention right now with networking, with posting? Like, because I love that you're expanding into new things. I just want you to do it like with a conscious, like, what do I want to do, right? Like, do I want to build confidence? Do I want to build connections? What's the purpose of the process?
yeah, I guess that is kind of a question I've maybe not been as clear about. Ultimately I'd like to find clients, but or find referrals. I guess those are, I don't know, that's like the ultimate, I guess the ideal would be to find connections that would be interested in and have possibilities of referrals, or that might be clients. So but other than that, like sort of ultimate thing, I guess it's been to get myself out there more. I think, I don't know if that's more of, I'm not quite sure if that's what you're talking about, but that's kind of the other purpose, I guess, is to just get more confidence and more presence out there, I guess. I don't know.
Awesome. So how did that last networking event go? Tell me more about that.
It was good. It was perhaps not your typical networking. It was like a lunch, and everybody just shared like a little introduction. And then I actually, which maybe wasn't the wisest thing, but I was kind of done and I wanted to, it already had gone over, and some people stayed longer, and I was like, I'm ready to go. Nobody rushed to talk to me afterwards. And there were only like 8 people there. So I also figured, well, I can follow up with them. And 2 of them actually followed up with me. So that's another thing that's on my priority list, hopefully still today, since the holidays are coming, just to follow up and say, yeah, it was great to meet you too. And the one person actually wanted to meet up. The other one was a vaguer follow-up. So I'll ask him what he's, it was sort of like a good to meet you, but it didn't really say what he, if he was, where he was going with a good to meet you. Yeah, so I guess it went well. I think the main thing that went well about it was that I showed up and that I did my introduction in a more dynamic way, I guess, than I have done in the past. The recommendation. But it didn't have the one-on-one networking, which I think is what the other person was encouraging me to practice on. So yeah, I guess I'm feeling mostly in a good place about things, and not really, like I said, I wanted to be sure I was on the call, but I'm not really sure what I'm
I love that. So you're like, I think there's a problem, but there's not really a problem.
Be on the call and not stress about it, I don't know. So yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so the only thing I want to add to this, because you're feeling in a good place, you're taking action even when things are busy, the only thing I want to add to this is just 2 things, actually. Remember to focus on front end stuff. So personal reach outs, when you go to networking events, to the follow up and stuff. And then you don't have to do everything all the time. but what you're doing, make sure that you're doing it with intention. So if you go networking to make connections, build referrals, seek opportunities, potential clients, then leverage that experience really well and come back home and follow up with everyone, right? Because that's the whole point of going. So you can meet people, connect with them more, and see what magic unfolds. Make sense?
Yeah, and I did wonder about whether to, send a message to everybody. So you think that would be, I mean, especially since it's a smaller group, that would be a reasonable thing to do, and just say, just wanted to check back and see if you'd, just be, I guess sometimes I'm not sure whether to just be like blunt about it and be like, hey, great to see you. I was, I wanted to remind you I'm the person who talked about this, any chance you've thought of somebody? I mean, is that sort of okay? Or is that reasonable? Or is it, I mean, as you say, I mean, if my purpose, I think that was the other person's suggestion, was to really be blunter, I guess, than I sometimes am, especially in a case like that where you're one-on-one and it's like, and you already know that's what you're doing, be blunt and say, well, I met you and, this is what I mentioned, and I'm wondering, if you can keep me in mind, or if you've thought of somebody, and, or what would I follow up with, I guess, is part of the question I have.
Okay, well, I would say yes and no to that. So I totally agree with being blunt in the sense of like, yes, right? Like talk about it. But I also feel like it's important to put in the step of building the connection deeper, because there's really not that much that you can talk in an 8 people networking event where you didn't really have one-on-one content. So first of all, a small event, sometimes it's even more powerful than a big event, right? Like if you're really taking the time and effort to connect deeper with those individuals. So a trick that I used when I used to do networking is I would not bring business cards with me. I just threw out 400 business cards because I never gave them out. And I would just ask for people's business cards, and I would have their information. And after the event, I would follow up with them and ask them if they wanted to hop on a coffee chat. Like, hey, it was so nice meeting you. I love what you do. Like, keep them in mind too. Like, don't just talk about yourself, because the whole point is not to get attached to this idea of like, I go to this event to get this client. I go to this event to get a referral. You go to this event to get amazing, magical opportunities that you can't even expect. Sometimes it's going to be clients. Sometimes it's going to be more networking events. Who knows? Maybe someone asks you to do public speaking. Sometimes it's going to be referrals. But that's not really going to solidify until you build real, authentic connections with these people. So maybe that could be a good step for you, where you're like, hey, it was nice meeting you. I love what you do. I love to get to know each other a little bit more. Would you be open to a coffee chat? Send the link to a coffee chat.
Yeah. And I guess, I mean, my only issue with that is I feel like that's what I've been doing with LinkedIn. And then I have all these chats with people, and they, as of yet, I mean, there's been one so far where it felt like it might go somewhere, and every other one, it was like really fun. It was enjoyable. We saw things we had in common, it was like, oh, in theory, it'd be nice to refer somebody to you, but they didn't really express much. It just kind of, I guess I feel like I'm good at like, enjoying connection with people and making enjoyable connections with people, but it's more the purpose or the like getting to the next step that kind of seems like, then I just have all these people that I, in theory, need to follow up with again, but that it didn't seem like there was that much happening in the first, you know what I mean? So I guess I just feel a little wary of making my space open for like 8 coffee chats with people in a schedule that I'm already not, following up with, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like adding more stuff in a way. Like, I feel like I need to be a little intentional about it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, totally. I don't want to, like, I already have trouble, squeezing everything in, and like, I really want to make space for the powerful, the connections that are more than just an enjoyable connection, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
So what would that look like if you were more intentional about those connections? What would that look like for you?
Well, see, I guess that's why I was kind of leaning toward being blunt about it and just being like, hey, I really enjoyed, like, I actually, 4 of the people there at least, or 5, most of the people there I'd already met before, actually, because I've been to this before. So, I mean, most of them, I've already met before. They already kind of knew what I was doing, and they haven't really referred anybody to me yet. But, like, on the other hand, I haven't really been, like, blunt about that, you know what I mean? So I guess that's where I was kind of thinking, well, maybe, like, being like, hey, I really enjoyed seeing you again. I'm wondering, I could even, I guess I could make it like a two-way street thing and just say, if you could tell me exactly what remind me exactly what you've been looking for, I could keep an eye out. Here's what I'm looking for. And, like, I guess one of the struggles I've been having, like I said, including with the LinkedIn connections, is these really enjoyable connections that, like, phone call 20, 30 minutes, and then it doesn't really go anywhere, even though it seems like they think what I'm doing is cool, and a lot of times I think what they're doing is cool too, but it's like, where do we, you know what I mean?
I think for that, we talked we actually talked a lot about this because it was just you and me on our first call.
Right, yeah.
Go back and listen to that call, because we literally created a strategy where we're going to start weeding out more individuals and hopping on the phone less. So
right,
like pre-qualifying them. So for that, it's just about changing a few of the steps that you're taking so that you're not constantly hopping on the phone.
So, but I guess with the networking, would you do the same? I mean,
you know what I would say? I would say try it out, right? Like, try being blunt, especially because you've seen them a couple of times. I thought I had this idea that you went to a networking event and you've never met these people.
Yeah, I didn't really mention that. Like 3 of them I hadn't, but yeah, like 4.
Yeah,
like,
so it's harder to ask for something from someone who you've only met once and you haven't really connected with. But if you connected with them before, then it's definitely okay for you to take that blunt step and just be like, hey, we met a couple of times, tell me a little bit about what you need. This is what I need. Is this something that you or someone that would be interested in? Try it out and see what happens. With the thing with networking is you got to get detached from an outcome, because that's when you build so much pressure around it that people can feel it. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Well, I think that's a good, and I think with the people that I haven't met, I guess, like, just, maybe adding, like, going back to kind of our first call and seeing if I could add some of that even for an in-person. Joey, please don't. Okay, honey. Thank you. That sounds good. All right. Well, I'm satisfied. Thank you very much.
Of course. Keep me updated in the group. Your work is to do those follow-ups and to stay as consistent as possible, okay? Okay, cool.
Sounds good.
All right, Jen, do you have anything else to add or anything else to ask?
You know what? Like, this might help Catherine, because I can certainly relate to what you are experiencing. And one thing that I learned, just even within myself, is sometimes we feel like those coffee chats don't produce anything because we're expecting something right now. But down the road, they really do. Like, if you have a connection with that person, they can really be super valuable. And even with myself, like, I know I have referred people that I have talked to somebody else, but it's been like 6 months after the fact. And I think, sometimes, like, speaking from experience, when I would go to in-person events, I was always like, oh, do you know someone, like, right now? Because that was my timing, but it isn't necessarily their timing. And so I think it's just super important. And then the other piece to that is that some people have a tough time referring to people that they haven't personally worked with, because they're like, when I refer somebody, my name is on the line, and I'm not going to refer someone if I've never worked with that person and I don't know, like, what kind of experience my top client might get. So it's tricky, and I really think a lot of that personal networking and even the stuff on LinkedIn, it comes down to just having the right mindset. And like Barb said, like, just detach from the outcome, go into it with an intention of, I just want to make a friend, and make sure they're clear on how I can help people and, like, the benefits of working with me, and then make sure that I reciprocate that as well, and just go from there.
I love that. Great pointers. Really, really great pointers. It's so, so true. And, like, don't be afraid to sell either. Right. Go in it with, like, an open mind. But also don't be afraid to, like, put yourself out there and sell, because that's one of your main intentions right now. Cool. Awesome. This is really good. I loved it. A small little call right before Thanksgiving. Any other questions? Are we feeling good? Are we clear on what's happening next?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, ladies, have an awesome Thanksgiving, Black Friday if you do that. We'll talk soon. Keep me updated. You each have a little bit of work to do. Yeah, have an amazing rest of your week. We had such a great time, and we'll see each other next week again, okay?
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.
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 Thanks. Bye. Thank you guys. Bye.